Right now, as you're watching this video, your body might be making a silent transformation that could change your life forever. You feel perfectly healthy, your energy seems fine, but inside, your cells are slowly losing their ability to process sugar properly. And here's the terrifying part. By the time you notice the symptoms, you could already be years into developing type 2 diabetes. The Centers for Disease Control estimates that over 96 million American adults have prediabetes. And a staggering 80% of them don't even know it. I'm about to share with you 5 seemingly innocent mistakes that millions of people make every single day, mistakes that are silently paving the road to diabetes. These aren't the obvious ones you've heard about. These are the hidden traps that catch even the most health-conscious individuals off guard. And if you're making any of these mistakes right now, don't panic. Because I'm also going to show you exactly how to reverse course before it's too late. The first dangerous mistake is one that probably describes your morning routine perfectly, and it's happening before you even realize you're awake. You see, according to research published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation, the timing of when you eat your first meal can actually reprogram your body's ability to handle sugar for the entire day. Most people think breakfast is just about getting energy, but it's actually about setting your metabolic rhythm. Here's what's happening in your body. When you sleep, your liver works overnight to maintain steady blood sugar levels by releasing stored glucose. This is completely normal and healthy, but when you wake up, your body expects food within a certain window to signal that the overnight fast is over. The problem is, many people either skip breakfast entirely or delay it for several hours while drinking coffee or doing morning activities. Harvard School of Public Health research shows that when you delay your first meal beyond a critical window, typically more than 2 to 3 hours after waking, your body starts to develop what's called insulin resistance. Your cells literally become less responsive to insulin signal to absorb sugar from your bloodstream. This forces your pancreas to work harder, pumping out more and more insulin to achieve the same result. Over months and years, this creates a vicious cycle where your pancreas becomes exhausted and your blood sugar levels start creeping higher. But here's the part that makes this mistake even more dangerous. Many people who skip breakfast think they're being healthy, especially if they're trying to lose weight. They don't realize that this pattern is actually training their body to become diabetic. The National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases has documented that irregular eating patterns, particularly delayed morning meals, can increase diabetes risk by up to 25% over a 10-year period. The solution isn't complicated, but it is specific. You need to eat something within 90 minutes of waking up. And that something needs to include protein and healthy fats, not just carbohydrates. This sends the right metabolic signal to your body and helps maintain insulin sensitivity throughout the day. The second mistake is even more insidious because it masquerades as a healthy habit. You've probably been told that fruit is nature's candy and that eating more fruits and vegetables is always good for you. While this is generally true, there's a critical distinction that most people miss, and it's costing them their metabolic health. The World Health Organization guidelines emphasize whole fruits over fruit juices, but even whole fruits can become problematic when you consume them in what researchers call a carbohydrate cluster. This happens when you eat multiple servings of fruit close together, especially high-sugar fruits like grapes, mangoes, or bananas, without balancing them with protein or fat. Here's what the research from the American Diabetes Association reveals. When you eat fruit alone, especially in quantities that exceed 1 serving, your blood sugar spikes rapidly. Your body responds by releasing a large amount of insulin to bring that sugar down. But here's the kicker. If this happens repeatedly throughout the day, your cells start to ignore insulin's signal. They've seen this spike and crash pattern so many times that they begin to shut down their sugar-absorbing mechanisms as a protective measure. The most dangerous version of this mistake happens with dried fruits and fruit smoothies. A study published in PLOS Medicine followed over 180,000 people for decades and found that those who consumed fruit juices regularly had a 21% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes, even when controlling for overall calorie intake and body weight. The problem isn't the fruit itself, it's the concentration and speed of sugar absorption. Even whole fruits become risky when you eat them without considering their glycemic impact. 3 bananas might seem like a healthy snack, but to your pancreas, it's nearly equivalent to eating a candy bar in terms of the blood sugar response it creates. The fiber in whole fruit helps somewhat, but it can't completely mitigate the effect when you consume large quantities. The solution is understanding fruit pairing and timing. Eat fruit with a small amount of protein or healthy fat, like a handful of nuts or a piece of cheese. This slows down sugar absorption and creates a gentler blood sugar curve. Also, limit yourself to 2 servings of fruit per day and space them at least 3 hours apart. The third mistake is happening in your kitchen right now, and it's so common that food manufacturers have built entire product lines around enabling it. You probably think you're making healthy choices when you reach for foods labeled as low-fat, reduced-calorie, or even organic, but many of these products are actually engineered to disrupt your blood sugar control in ways that natural foods never could. The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health published groundbreaking research showing that ultra-processed foods, even those marketed as healthy, create what scientists call metabolic confusion. These foods contain combinations of refined carbohydrates, artificial sweeteners, preservatives, and flavor enhancers that your body simply isn't designed to process efficiently. Here's the mechanism that makes this so dangerous. Ultra-processed foods are designed to be rapidly absorbed. Food scientists engineer them to dissolve quickly in your mouth and stomach, which means the sugars and starches hit your bloodstream faster than they would from whole foods. Even when these foods are lower in calories, they can create bigger blood sugar spikes than higher-calorie whole foods. The National Institutes of Health conducted a controlled study where they fed people 2 diets with identical calorie and macronutrient content. One group ate ultra-processed foods, while the other ate whole foods. The ultra-processed group showed significantly higher blood sugar responses and began developing insulin resistance markers within just 2 weeks. What makes this mistake particularly sneaky is that many ultra-processed foods don't taste sweet. Whole grain crackers, protein bars, instant oatmeal, and even some organic snacks can trigger dramatic blood sugar responses because of how they're manufactured. The processing breaks down the natural fiber matrix that would normally slow sugar absorption. The most dangerous ultra-processed foods for blood sugar control are those that combine refined grains with added sugars or artificial sweeteners. Your body gets confused by mixed signals and often overproduces insulin in response. Over time, this leads to what researchers call metabolic inflexibility, where your body loses its ability to efficiently switch between burning sugar and burning fat for energy. To avoid this mistake, focus on foods that have undergone minimal processing. If a food has more than 5 ingredients, or if you can't pronounce some of the ingredients, it's likely ultra-processed. Choose steel-cut oats over instant oatmeal, whole apples over applesauce, and nuts and seeds over protein bars. The fourth mistake is one that modern life almost forces upon us, and it's quietly sabotaging your metabolism every single night. You might think that what you do during your waking hours determines your diabetes risk, but research from the National Sleep Foundation and multiple studies published in the journal Diabetes Care show that your sleep patterns might be even more important than your diet when it comes to blood sugar control. Here's what happens when you don't get adequate sleep, and by adequate, I mean 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Your body produces stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to keep you functioning despite being tired. These hormones have a direct effect on your blood sugar. They signal your liver to release stored glucose to give you energy, even when you haven't eaten anything. But the real damage happens to your insulin sensitivity. Sleep deprivation causes your cells to become resistant to insulin's effects. Studies show that just one night of poor sleep can reduce your insulin sensitivity by up to 25%. When this becomes a chronic pattern, you're essentially training your body to become diabetic. The University of Chicago conducted a landmark study where they restricted healthy adults to 4 hours of sleep per night for 6 nights. By the end of the study, these previously healthy individuals showed blood sugar responses identical to people with prediabetes. Their bodies had literally forgotten how to process sugar normally in less than a week. What makes this mistake even more dangerous is that sleep deprivation also affects the hormones that control hunger and satiety. When you're tired, your body produces more ghrelin, the hormone that makes you hungry, and less leptin, the hormone that makes you feel full. This leads to cravings for high carbohydrate, high sugar foods, creating a perfect storm for blood sugar dysregulation. The Centers for Disease Control data shows that people who consistently sleep less than 6 hours per night have a 30% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. independent of their weight, diet, or exercise habits. This means that even if you eat perfectly and exercise regularly, poor sleep can still push you toward diabetes. The solution involves what sleep researchers call sleep hygiene. But it goes beyond just going to bed early. Your sleep environment needs to be cool, completely dark, and quiet. Electronic devices should be turned off at least 1 hour before bedtime because the blue light interferes with melatonin production, which affects not just sleep quality but also blood sugar regulation. The fifth and final mistake is perhaps the most counterintuitive, and it involves something that most people consider beneficial for their health. You've probably been told that exercise is crucial for preventing diabetes, and that's absolutely true. But there's a specific type of exercise mistake that can actually accelerate the development of insulin resistance. And millions of people are making it in gyms and fitness classes across the country. The mistake is engaging in chronic high-intensity cardio exercise without adequate recovery, especially when combined with caloric restriction. Research from the Journal of Applied Physiology shows that excessive cardio exercise, particularly when done in a fasted state or when you're not eating enough to support your activity level, can create a chronic stress response that disrupts blood sugar control. Here's the physiological process that makes this so problematic. When you do intense cardio exercise, your body releases stress hormones to mobilize energy. This is normal and healthy in the short term. But when you do this type of exercise repeatedly without proper recovery, or when you're not eating enough to replenish your energy stores, your body starts to perceive this as a chronic threat. Your adrenal glands begin pumping out cortisol on a regular basis, which tells your liver to constantly release stored glucose. Meanwhile, the chronic stress makes your muscle cells less sensitive to insulin. The very exercise that's supposed to improve your insulin sensitivity ends up doing the opposite when taken to extremes. The Stanford University School of Medicine published research showing that people who engaged in more than 60 minutes of high-intensity cardio exercise daily, without incorporating strength training or adequate rest days, showed signs of developing insulin resistance over a 6-month period. This was particularly pronounced in individuals who were also restricting calories. What makes this mistake especially dangerous for women is that chronic high-intensity exercise can disrupt reproductive hormones, which play a crucial role in blood sugar regulation. The disruption of estrogen and progesterone patterns can accelerate the development of insulin resistance, particularly as women approach menopause. The solution isn't to avoid exercise, but to understand that your body needs variety and recovery. The most effective exercise pattern for maintaining insulin sensitivity includes a combination of moderate cardio, strength training, and what researchers call movement snacks throughout the day. These are brief periods of light activity that help your muscles absorb glucose without creating a stress response. The National Institute of Health recommends what they call the Goldilocks zone of exercise. Enough to stimulate your muscles and cardiovascular system, but not so much that you create chronic inflammation. This typically means 3 to 4 days of structured exercise per week, with at least one of those days focused on strength training, and incorporating short walks or light movement throughout your daily routine. Now you might be wondering how all of these mistakes work together to create diabetes risk, and why traditional approaches to diabetes prevention often fail to address them. The answer lies in understanding that type 2 diabetes isn't really a disease of eating too much sugar, as many people believe. It's a disease of insulin resistance, where your body gradually loses its ability to effectively use the hormone insulin to manage blood sugar levels. Each of these 5 mistakes contributes to insulin resistance through different pathways. Irregular meal timing disrupts your circadian metabolism. Fruit clustering creates repeated blood sugar spikes. Ultra-processed foods confuse your hormonal signals. Poor sleep increases stress hormones, and excessive cardio creates chronic inflammation. When you combine several of these mistakes, which most people do without realizing it, you create a perfect storm for developing diabetes. The good news is that insulin resistance is largely reversible, especially in its early stages. The human body has a remarkable ability to heal and restore normal function when given the right conditions. Research from the Diabetes Prevention Program, conducted by the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, showed that lifestyle changes could reduce diabetes risk by 58% even in people who already had prediabetes. But here's what most people get wrong about diabetes prevention. They focus on what not to do, rather than understanding what their body actually needs to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. Your body wants to be healthy. Your pancreas wants to produce the right amount of insulin. Your muscle cells want to efficiently absorb and use glucose for energy. When these systems aren't working properly, it's usually because something in your environment or routine is interfering with these natural processes. Think of it this way. Diabetes prevention isn't about deprivation or extreme measures. It's about removing the obstacles that prevent your body from doing what it's designed to do. When you eat your first meal within 90 minutes of waking up, you're supporting your natural circadian rhythm. When you pair fruits with protein or fat, you're working with your digestive system instead of overwhelming it. When you choose whole foods over ultra-processed ones, you're giving your body the clear signals it needs to regulate blood sugar properly. The same principle applies to sleep and exercise. Quality sleep allows your hormonal systems to reset and recalibrate each night. Balanced exercise stimulates your muscles to absorb glucose efficiently without creating chronic stress. These aren't restrictions on your lifestyle, they're investments in your body's natural ability to maintain health. What's particularly encouraging is that you don't need to perfect all of these areas simultaneously. The research shows that even modest improvements in 2 or 3 of these areas can significantly reduce your diabetes risk. Start with the mistake that feels most manageable for you to address. Maybe that's setting a consistent breakfast time, or maybe it's replacing one ultra-processed snack with a whole food alternative. As you make these changes, pay attention to how your body responds. Many people notice improvements in energy levels, mood stability, and sleep quality within just a few weeks of addressing these mistakes. These are signs that your insulin sensitivity is improving and your blood sugar regulation is becoming more stable. Remember, the goal isn't to live in fear of diabetes, but to understand how your daily choices are either supporting or undermining your body's natural ability to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. Every meal, every night of sleep, every exercise session is an opportunity to move toward better health rather than toward disease. The path forward is clear, and it's entirely within your control. Your body has an incredible capacity for healing and restoration when you provide it with the right conditions. By avoiding these 5 dangerous mistakes, you're not just preventing diabetes, you're optimizing your body's ability to thrive for decades to come. If this information has been helpful, please share it with someone you care about. Because the truth is, almost everyone is making at least one of these mistakes without realizing the long-term consequences. Together, we can help more people understand that diabetes isn't inevitable, and that small, consistent changes can create profound improvements in health and quality of life. Your journey toward optimal health starts with the very next choice you make. Make it count.